traffic, noise, size, and type of operation involved, and the reputation of the applicant.
And lack of opposition from the neighborhood.
And a lack of opposition from the neighborhood.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, done with discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion loses 3-2. Okay, moving forward, we're going to continue deliberation on the transfer of all alcohol license, restaurant license to change the location to Splitsville.
Do you have the agenda?
Yeah, it's right here, John. Okay, this public hearing was closed. Does anybody wish to reopen the public hearing before we continue?
Can I just mention, we allowed commentary on Splitsville during the other public hearing. I
Yeah.
think if there are people who need to comment, I
Yeah.
think they may have been waiting for the Splitsville.
Yeah,
I think it would be fair to, do you allow it as citizens' input? Do we have to reopen the public hearing?
Well,
You'd have to reopen.
we have to reopen the public hearing, because that's exactly what I'm getting. I think the statements made in the first public hearing, that people didn't realize that it wasn't a joint public hearing, it was two separate things. And I think all that statement should be put on the record that they made earlier on this public hearing. So we're gonna make a motion now to reopen the public hearing, just to see if anybody else wants to speak, and if not, we're gonna close it right back away. So, Lorraine, you wanna make your motion?
I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing that was opened initially on October 29th at 7:10 PM.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on Splitsville that hasn't spoken earlier on Splitsville? Seeing none.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? All right, okay. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening. Thank you for your patience. And we were in deliberation and discussion at that last time, if my memory serves correctly, so I'm gonna just start on my left and go right to John. Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, let me get my notes, hold on. Thanks for giving us a week to do some research. Last week I just got this information the day before, so I had a week to digest it. One thing I did is I called the Splitsville in Fairview, Texas, just to get a feeling for that operation. Young fellow answered the phone, and I asked about the hours of operation. I asked what type of an operation it was. And the guy who answered the phone said that, the vast majority of the business is bar and restaurant with a bowling theme, which I think is consistent with what you guys have said. They open at 11 on weekends. Children do go there. But he said there's no leagues or organized bowling groups. At night, they shift into a more adult environment. So I guess that's still the model that you guys are operating on. Okay. If you could, my only concern with this is actually the element where you've now co-located Howl with the Moon. I had intended to go into Boston to check it out. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. But I did go on Howl with the Moon's website. And the brand Howl with the Moon is, if you look at the website, there's an interactive video. And anybody at home who has their computer on, go to Howl with the Moon Boston and look at the video. The brand tells me that it's a party theme. They do serve large drinks, as Ginny pointed out. I wouldn't particularly call it a family environment. There was a section on the video where it looked like somebody with a caulking gun infusing an alcohol-laced gel into a woman's mouth. And I don't know how that can cohabitate with what's supposed to be a family environment. Can you help me here? Because I don't get it.
You walk the floor in. But can I ask one? courtesy of the board real quick, on the off chance that my children are still awake, they thought it was pretty cool that you guys broadcast town meeting, so I just want to say hi to Grace and Jack. We're supposed to be in bed at 8 o'clock, if the off chance are watching. But can I answer by walking to the
Yep.
plan? Again, what we like about the Howl at the Moon concept is the quality entertainment. That's upside down. And I guess it's more of context. We won't serve big bucket drinks. We won't be doing Jello shots. I'm not sure about the caulking gun thing. We won't have that either. And just on the scale and the context, I talked last time, you're roughly from this point of the edge of the stage area to lane 4, 120 feet. I mean, you're very far away. So the context of Howl at the Moon Boston, which I believe is 25 to 3,000 square feet. I believe it's 21 and over from the time it opens.
Yep.
So it's completely different environments downtown Boston. Obviously a lot more active nighttime environment. So I think the dueling piano in and of itself may or may not be conducive with families as it gets later into the night. I think that's one of the things we'll work with the crowd that we're drawing and with Chief O'Leary. But again, I think what we have, you've got 20,000 square feet, of which the vast majority is not centered right around the stage. You've got a full kitchen. We expect to do 70 to 75% of food and bowling, and you've got beer, liquor, and wine sales also. So I think it's just a completely different context, putting in this building with all the other atmosphere and entertainment going on. And again, we do live entertainment in other Splitsvilles, and it doesn't ever become the tail that's wagging the dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, Selectmen, to point out, we aren't opening a Howl at the Moon Patriot Place. We are not a family-oriented business, Howl at the Moon. But the component of Howl at the Moon, and all of Splitsville's other locations, they have a component of live entertainment in their businesses. Even in Disney, I think Chief O'Leary, when he's down there, he witnesses the live entertainment, and it wasn't particularly good in terms of a quality perspective. I apologize, Mark. But that is the core of what we're just trying to do. We're not trying to open a Howl at the Moon. We're not going to do the buckets. We're not going to do Jello shots. We're not going to do all the stuff you saw on the website. We are going to put on a very high-quality, entertaining form of live music. That's it. That's it. The rest of this business, the 90% of this business is Splitsville. You guys are approving a Splitsville, a Patriot Place. We're just the guys on the stage a couple nights a week. That's all it is. And I think the noise around the website and the noise around the buckets and is drowning out what we're trying to do here. And so I just want you all to be clear of what we are doing. I know and that is the essence of what we're asking to do out here. So I'm not asking you to let me open up a standalone Howl at the Moon at Patriot Place. And I would never become
The reason I
redundant.
asked is I looked at Howl at the Moon's brand.
Mhm.
That's when people think of Howl at the Moon, that's what they think of. It's a club, it's partying, it's drinking.
I disagree,
Well,
respectfully.
the thing is, it certainly looked like drinking was the primary function on the website, and
Well-
that's promoting your brand.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's what I got.
Yeah.
But the thing is, all I saw was 21 to 30-something-year-olds drinking, period. That's all I saw. There was a flash of a piano, but there really wasn't any emphasis on the live entertainment component.
Well, I mean, all I can tell you that is the core of what Howl is. The entertainment is the core. We spend millions and millions of dollars a year strictly on entertainment, strictly on developing
You might want
players.
to change your website.
And that's the core of who we are. So, and that's what you'll be getting out here.
Why do you guys elect to cohabitate or co-locate? What makes these things, I don't know, what adds value if there's two of these together? Why not just Splitsville by itself?
Well, the goal is that one and one makes three from a revenue point of view. I mean, putting $4.5 million into anything, you need to be fairly confident that you can drive revenue. That's why we open as early as 11. We need to drive food, we need to drive bowling, and we also need to drive alcohol. We've operated combination businesses in the past. I'm good friends with Jimmy Bernstein, who was one of the founders of Howl at the Moon, known him for 20 years. We operated a Howl at the Moon side by side with a Stump Supper Club in Tampa. We opened a Howl at the Moon side by side with a Sloppy Joe's in Fort Lauderdale. So the idea of having, kind of, a lot of arrows in your quiver, so to speak, so that you can really, it's a competitive landscape out there. You need to drive business, and we have a very active, social, interactive concept of Splitsville, and we do live entertainment now. That I think, again, the website's casting a long shadow over the Howl at the Moon side, but their entertainment is very proprietary. these guys are paid, they're employees of the club or the company, as opposed to, you know, if I book a two-piece band or a three-piece band, even in Orlando, they could be playing at my competition the next night. I have nothing that defines me as being distinct. The Half Moon Entertainment, we can control them. We know what songs they're going to play. It works great for corporate events. We met with the director of sales and assistant director of sales of the Renaissance today. They are over the top excited about both sides because they run a lot of corporate business through Patriot Place, and they like the bowling side for kind of team building, and they love the Howl at the Moon, that we could bring in a Howl at the Moon show for a corporate event as part of an added amenity, so to speak. So they saw it as kind of two more amenities that they can help sell their individual property.
And I'd like to add, from the Patriot Place standpoint, we traveled around the country looking at various Howl at the Moon shows, and you know, and how you look at the website, but we looked at the quality of the entertainment. And again, entertainment is a small piece of what's happening at Splitsville. As you can see, the emphasis is on the bowling and the family aspect of the activity, but it truly is the quality of the players and where they're coming from. As Paul mentioned in the last meeting, you know, these are Berkeley School graduates, and this is their career. And that's the quality entertainment that we felt when these guys proposed it together. It made perfect sense when we went around and saw Splitsville, not just Boston, you know, and we went to Tampa, we went to other locations, Jacksonville, and we saw it work because of the entertainment. Obviously, you know, not to rehash all the efforts we're making to ensure that we don't have issues with alcohol at Patriot Place. If that were the overriding factor, that you bring Howl and a drinking element to it, it wouldn't make sense for any of us to do that. We're bringing a quality entertainment small piece to a great use, and that is the bowling concept that Splitsville brings to Patriot Place.
It's a bowling theme, because the vast majority of people, if this is fully occupied, the vast majority of people are not going to be bowling.
Well, they'll be eating. I mean, you talk about the amount of bowling that goes on.
It should be roughly 30% of sales. Again, it also depends, and the house show is going to be 2 nights a week. So the other 5 days, maybe 3 on Thursday. The other 5 days a week, it's going to be more about the bowling and the food. So it depends on what day of the week, what time of day. But your bowling revenue, that's the churn that has to go. I mean, bowling, again, I talked about last time. It's a happy sound. It's a happy activity. So the bowling is kind of the hook, but what's got to make it work, it's got to be about more than just the bowling. If you leave talking about anything besides bowling, we've done our job.
Well, that's it. The fellow in Texas said it's not a bowling alley. He said it's a restaurant and a bar with a bowling theme. You know, that's third. So
Well-
you're not bringing a bowling alley. You're bringing a restaurant and a bar that happens to have a bowling alley. Or
We
few.
actually, at Splitsville, we actually treat bowling as a game, not a sport. We don't do leagues. It's all open play. Let's say that you want to go try to bowl, you go to a bowling alley, you're bowling beside somebody who's in a league, who's trying to pick up their spare, and you got your kids with you. This has happened to me in Tampa. It's not fun. I mean, you know, the guy looks at you like you're from a different planet because the kid's trying to bowl while he's trying to pick up his spare and
I got a
win
3-inch
something.
putt and somebody yells out Noonan. I know.
Exactly. So it's about the fun of bowling, not about the sport of bowling. And we've been very successful at doing that. And it was when we opened up Disney, actually the president of Brunswick, which obviously all they care about is bowling, was excited that we were taking this concept and we were able to bring it out to the people that aren't normal bowlers. Because from a competitive bowling sport, the sport is on the decline. Being able to get kids to come in and learn how to bowl and have fun with it will hopefully get bowling back on an incline, because right now it's in a decrease.
Well, just one more question. I don't know if you mean theme in any kind of a non-positive way, but you know, there's still 12 lanes. It's going to be roughly 8,000 square feet, and it's going to
Oh,
be
no,
about,
no. The only reason I asked that is just to put things in perspective. If you've got a full house, the vast majority of people are not going to be bowling.
Or they're either going to be waiting to bowl.
Waiting to
I will guarantee you that our grand opening weekend, we will be on probably a 2 to 3 hour wait for bowling on those Friday and Saturday nights because people are going to want to get in there. That's what happened in every one of our locations. But the other grade is also opening up at 11 a.m. You'll have families and kids bowling in there. So throughout the entire day part, there's a lot more bowling than you think.
well, and just in Disney, which is, you know, not, it's a little bit of an amped up version. And that 30 lanes, we do more bowling games than any 30-lane center in the world. So, I mean, it's got to be
Oh,
about
that-
the
that
bowling,
is-
but
that
it's got to be about both. It's
Yeah.
really, the whole circle has to
That
work.
has 30 lanes in it?
30 lanes.
Yes, sir. And that's on 2 floors and 50,000 feet. We've got 12 lanes here and about 20,000 feet. But it's kind of, and I think I said it last week, if we do our job correctly for your community, when you first walk in the door, the first word out of your mouth is going to be, wow, this doesn't look like a regular bowling alley. And then where we're going to bring you back is going to be the food, is going to be the service. And I talked about the first class of bowling. To be able to, someone, a concierge walking into your lane with your bowling shoes and a basket, putting your name in the computer for you, it is totally different experience. It's even different than the other bowling alley, which I don't like to say the name of, that's not in this town. It really is. I mean, you'll be blown away when you walk into Splitsville, and you're going to be blown away in this one.
It's tough. And the Disney Food Blog just released a story on Splitsville yesterday, and we have 16 gluten-free menu items now. And it's just a competitive world. So we introduced rice bowls, we introduced some new sushi rolls. I mean, you just have to be, we think, at the top of your game across the gamut of what you do, which includes entertainment. So
But you don't think that could stand on its own without Howl at the Moon?
in this location, I would not, obviously, it has stood on its own in other locations, but again, back to forgetting the website, the Howl at the Moon Entertainment gives you a leg up on anybody else because nobody else can easily wander into that. To train players, to give them enough shifts that they can afford to work for you, so to speak, and to be able to control. I mean, we've booked bands in Florida since 1990, whether it's solo guys, we had a house band at Stumps for 11 years, 6-piece house band. We did British invasion bands, we did 70s bands, we did 80s bands. It's hard to get entertainers to do what you want them to do. They're artists, they're full of drama, it's very complicated. So it's no small piece getting the piano players with talent to show up and play within the parameters and do it in a very strong fashion. I mean, it sounds easy, but to Guy's point, I'm fairly sure that a competitor 15 miles away isn't going to be able to match us in the entertainment.
Right, and that really is the reason we're so excited about this location. We feel like we're bringing the best in musical entertainment to the greatest concept in the world. And we think those two together will give us something that, I mean, from a standpoint, it'll be even almost kind of cooler than Disney, because I think you're bringing this together, and I think it's something really special. And I think Patriot Place in Foxborough is a special place. I mean, when I first came up here 2 years ago, I mean, I'm thinking, Foxborough, what are we doing? And then when you come here and see from the stadium, from the town, the community you have, the radius that you pull around from here to what the Renaissance is doing, I'm so impressed. I mean, I know I said it about the high school and the video, but I mean, the research that I've done literally hard over the last probably 4 to 6 months, there's a lot of business that we're going to be able to even create that is not at Patriot Place right now. We were there the other day, and they were doing the little trick-or-treater during the day, and they were going around and they were getting the candy at the different shops, and I look over at Gibson and I go, if we were open, those women and those kids would be bowling in Splitsville right now, which is a great thing.
Just for clarification, so you stated, Mark, 30% of it is bowling, so you stated that Splitsville's package is 30% bowling? How much percent food, and how much percent?
40 to 45%
70 to
food.
75% bowling and food, the remainder being alcohol. So we do retail, and Disney is the only one that does retail, is a big factor. We may actually do a little bit of retail out of Patriot Place, given the.
Okay.
I thought you gave us different numbers last time.
The Howl at the
No,
Moon.
that was the
That was how
Howl.
Austin was given,
Okay.
so very strong.
Just one last
food
question,
component.
just so we can clarify, is the maximum capacity 800 or 650? Numbers were flying around the last time we talked.
We hope for the highest occupancy that the building department will issue until we submit
Oh,
for a
do you-
permit.
do you know?
They have to submit and get
Oh, okay,
approval.
so we
from-
This is the standard
We
process.
don't dictate, we'll hope for the highest, but that'll be the building official or the fire
Okay,
marshal.
all right, so it's
both.
undetermined at this point.
But the
Okay.
floor plan that was provided will remain the same, which is what is required of your process.
Thanks.
And what does the floor plan represent in population now?
I'm sorry?
The floor plan you submitted, you don't
The
have?
the
it?
application
The floor plan has
says-
been
Yeah,
provided
yeah,
to this board with
We
the
don't know
application.
until we get to the building
Nobody's approached the
department.
building inspector on this at all?
About what the max, not yet, no.
Lorraine, did you say you had a conversation about that with Bill?
Yeah, he estimated it at around 660, but the application says, I believe,
That's right. The application
50.
says 750,
Yeah,
but
we-
we would have, this is how the process works,
So
obviously.
somewhere in between.
We would have a review from Building and Fire of the detailed plan and the build-out.
Right.
That would set it, but your requirements are that our floor plan be consistent with what you licensed, and that's what's in fact the case.
I guess the short answer is he'll tell us what our occupancy is.
Right. Well, I just wanted some clarification. John, you all set?
I'm all set for now. Thanks, Mark.
Lorraine?
I just want you to know that I think, the concept of Splitsville, it's wonderful. It's great to see your enthusiasm. My focus is on public safety, and so really I kind of peel Splitsville away with the mix of your sales is different from Howl at the Moon, which is where I start to focus. So I just wanted you to know that I think that this concept is terrific. Last week, I heard Ed talk about our statistics, and, again, I think our staffing levels, we're spread really thin in terms of our police force. I know there's work being done on enhancing the police the policing approach to managing Patriot Place. I just have a concern with such a large number of people in a venue. It's almost like at the same time as Saga coming up, we're bringing on the equivalent of another Toby Keith. And, I did talk about the 24J reports and, where we are in relationship to other much larger cities than us, putting out the same number of people who, do report Foxborough, not necessarily Patriot Place, but just Foxborough because of, as their last place that they had a drink. So I just need to put it out there that I'm very concerned about public safety with the venue of this many people. And the percentage of alcohol sales being 75% of the business related to Howl at the Moon, which is
25%.
75% in
Again,
the evening.
Different here.
What is it?
It's hard to, I don't want to,
That's what you answered last week when I asked.
but we're not opening a Howl at the Moon out here respectfully, and I know I feel like I'm kind of beating myself over the head here. This is our food menu. This is not the food menu I serve in Howl, trust me, all right? The competency on food, the competency on non-alcohol related business is completely different. You can't even compare the two. The only thing we're doing is we're taking those 4 or 5 people that are on that stage a couple nights a week and putting them here as entertainment. The food component, the alcohol service, the bowling revenue, the children's entertainment, the layout, everything is consistent with a typical Splitsville. And so I hear the concern, but we're not opening a mini Howl at the Moon in the middle of a Splitsville. That's not what's happening today, or as part of this process. And I know it's kind of maybe hard for you guys to, think of it that way, but if you just took the Howl at the Moon name off of it and just said we're doing live entertainment within Splitsville, and don't even put the Howl at the Moon name on it, that's what we're doing. We're doing live entertainment at Splitsville, which they do in all their other markets. And that's how I think it should be viewed, in my mind. So the alcohol sales, the kid-friendly, all the stuff that goes, the white noise that's around Howl, I get completely. And like I said, I would never be in front of this board asking you for permission to open a Howl at the Moon out here. We're not.
Unfortunately, Howl at the Moon is attached at the hip at this point.
Okay, let's move on from this.
But the testimony was on the percentage of alcohol was actually a fairly low percentage of alcohol based on Splitsville model, which is 30%.
No, the answer was 75%.
For Howl.
In Boston, which is a totally different concept and not what's being proposed here. What's being proposed is what is already being offered nationally, which has a low percentage.
Yeah, Lorraine, look at it this way. If we, in a regular Splitsville, we would still have that bar there.
Right.
We're not building a different bar because it's Howl at the Moon there. So we would have that stage up there, and we would have a 2 or 3 man act up there playing. We'd be doing the exact same thing. So I think that's the reason, if you focus on it, the food sales to liquor sales are going to be 75 to 70% food and bowling, and 25 to 30% liquor sales, just like in every other Splitsville. we're just going to have better entertainment. That's what it comes down to. And once again, I'll sit there and even though he knocks us on our live entertainment, I think Splitsville is probably the greatest corporate convention venue in the world for team building. We do a ton of parties. I think in 9 months at Downtown Disney, a combination of parties, I think we've done right at 200 events. And a lot of them are 8-person birthday parties for kids. Some of them we're doing Major League Baseball next week for 900 in our space. So we kind of run the gamut. Number 2 is actually Howl at the Moon. They do incredible amount of corporate events. So I know what you're saying down on the website, but I'm telling you, that's a great people. The convention crowd, the corporate crowd loves that entertainment. I mean, they'll create a song for your company. So like, if you had, or for the city of Foxborough, let's say you were going to come and have a corporate event or holiday party there. And they would sit there and the entertainers would actually create a song talking about the Board of Selectmen or the Chief of Police or whatever. I mean, it's really fun
Not on board
stuff.
Selectmen.
But I'm just saying, it's that kind of entertainment. I couldn't get my guys at Downtown Disney to create that to save my life. So I think if you look at it that way, that's really what we're doing here. And that, like I said, once again, that's the reason I'm so excited about it. I think we've got something that's really going to be special. So.
I think they sing about us, but not in a happy tune. Okay, all
I'll
set,
definitely
Lorraine?
check
A lot
that.
of bleeps.
Yeah. We call it the blogging. Ginny?
Gentlemen, like I said last week, I think the Splitsville concept is fabulous. I really do. I think it would be a great addition to Patriot Place. And I think from what you said, your enthusiasm is so infectious. I question why don't you just go on your own? Because I really am concerned about, like John calls it, the Howl at the Moon brand. I cannot wrap my arms around it. Because we have a lot going on up at Patriot Place. There was a lot of drinking going on at Patriot Place. The number one complaint I get from the constituents in Foxborough is there is a lot of drinking up in Patriot Place. And why in God's name do we want to add more to it? And I think there's a big difference between the Splitsville concept because it's bowling, it's food, it's drinking. But the Howl at the Moon, it's drinking and entertainment, but it's drinking. That's how it's, and even though you say don't pay attention to the website, you paid a lot of money for that website for that stuff. And what you're promoting is drinking, And that's why I cannot combine them. And I feel like if you get one license, we're actually licensing 2 separate entities under one license. And I think that's being very disingenuous. And like I said, I love Splitsville. I really do. Everyone came in who spoke enthusiastically about Splitsville and bowling and food and everything. So that's why I just can't get the howl. I can't condone a Howl at the Moon.
Well, I think that,
If I may,
yes.
okay. I'm just gonna let Jimmy say his state, and then I'm gonna let you guys rebuttal, okay? Because it's getting repetitive around here. All right, you all set, Jimmy?
I guess so.
Well, no, you didn't.
No, I said what I said last week.
Well, you think
is
so,
the
you know,
same
so I
as
just
this.
I'm not trying to cut you off.
Okay.
He was trying to cut you off.
No, I don't think he was drinking.
Well, that's why I
Oh,
saw
okay.
it. Okay,
All right.
James?
Sure. A little repetitive, what I said last week, you look at Patriots Place, you look at the sports, the football, obviously, the NCAA, the college football, the Revolution. You've got a medical establishment, you get a hotel, you have retail, you have bars, and you have different types of entertainment. I actually like the combination of Splitville with Howl at the Moon, with the understanding, I like the brand name. If you build it, they will come. So, are you going to change over time? Is it going to turn into a Boston? That's my concern. But I think it's, and I also have kids, and I could see them coming here in the, early afternoon, morning. And if, they're there at night, then there's something wrong with the parenting skills. But I could go there later with adults, and so it serves a purpose similar to other things that have been done in Patriots Place where you try to infuse stuff during the day where it's quiet, and then that kind of fizzles off, and then you get the night stuff going on. I think what it comes down to me is, and I said the same thing last time, how does it affect our public safety, and how does it cost the town? With the understanding that there are going to be jobs, there is development, there's going to be money coming in from meals tax, so there's a whole bunch of positives, but the detriment of having, if you look at even the floor plan, you've got 12 bowling alleys, so if you've got, 10 at each bowling alley, you get 120 people for bowling, and then the rest going up to 600-700 people are there for food and drink. Late at night, it's going to be less food, it's going to be more drink. So I understand the concern about being another Toby Keith's, which brings us some pain sometimes when we're dealing with the infusion of alcohol at night. So my question is, and it's not necessarily directed at you, but from our public officials' side and from our side, what is the pain level with respect to what are we going to be dealing with public safety, police, fire, calls? And I go back to the mitigation and the exercise that was done for the first liquor license, and you look at the list of the concerns, some of them came to fruition, some were concerns but never came to be. But how do we quantify that and qualify that so we can address it with the understanding that there is going to be alcohol and there is going to be problems, but it's our responsibility, if this goes forward, to make sure we're not behind the 8 ball and trying to address it after the fact. So the mitigation is where I'm at right now. And I don't know if that, I understand there were meetings or some discussion with Chief O'Leary and whether it's communication or staffing, but I think that is an area that we need to discuss tonight as well.
And that's what I was gonna, after everybody spoke, I was gonna bring that up. So are you done, or do you want to continue, and then I'll bring that up, or you want to visit back?
No, and I mean, I've looked at the floor plan and I've looked at the concept, and other than Howl at the Moon and the websites, and it's not to bring up other establishments. I go back to what we went through with Trader Joe's, and it was going to be another alcohol establishment, and there were promises made that the shelving and the service there of, they're not going to be selling kegs and
$2
cases and all
jacks or
that stuff.
something.
Yeah, and I went to Staples the other day. It didn't open till 10 on a Saturday. I went to Trader Joe's, and it's exactly what was promised, and it was very good to see that that the words were kept and concepts were kept after they got their liquor license, and I'm hoping this is going to go the same route. In all due respect, when you're using words like disingenuous, up front, it's Howl at the Moon and it's Splitville, and the application said it. I think it would be disingenuous not to put Howl at the Moon to get their liquor license and then change it later. So I'm hoping what doesn't come to the press and the discussion is this is a disingenuous discussion we're having, because I think it's up front, and I think we just need to deal with the alcohol part of it.
All right, couple of things. Obviously, you read through the paperwork, somebody's 20% stockholders, 20% stockholders, 40, there's a difference here. So basic, correct me if I'm wrong. You were brought in, Paul, right,
Yes, sir.
as a 20% stockholder?
Well, the company that I have will own 40%
Okay,
of this
so
entity.
you are, all right, just so I, but your company controls all these entertainers. They can't just go play anywhere they want. Is that correct? Like a
Well, they're-
Don Law
Well,
presentation?
they're
Can you
employees.
explain
so
that to me?
They're employees. It's a right to work. They can quit and go work somewhere else. But
Okay.
while they're employees of ours, like any other business, they can't work anywhere else.
Is there a contract for a year, a month, or just, contract labor, basically?
Yeah. They're just,
Okay.
just
I
employees
just wanted to
like everybody
understand
else.
that concept, but, so
But they're,
basically,
you know, they're-
you're like almost an agent for these gentlemen and women.
Yeah, they're employees. They're salaried. They're 401k. Their health benefits, like any other employee, which is different in the music world than what most people experience in the music world. That's what makes it different. This is careers. A lot of them, at least the older players, are married with children, and and it's a career for them.
I just wanted to understand that concept and make it clear. So basically, you've got some quality people. That's why
Absolutely.
these people approached you, and you guys are trying to make this work out so that it can be good for everybody. Okay. Well, obviously, you sense the concern that this board has for public safety. It always has. My opinion is, if you're gonna put $4.5 million into a business, you're pretty serious. I don't think I'll ever see $4.5 million in my eternity of my life combined as a lifetime income. So the problem you could have in the future is you put all this money, it's happened in town where there's been multiple violations of liquor license establishments in town where revocation has taken place and managers have been replaced, and most recently there was one that was just the last straw. So you're putting a $4.5 million investment into a building. The last thing you want to do is come in front of this board in the next year or less, or even longer, and say, yeah, we got a violation. Because you will have inspectors from the state. It'll be all kinds of stings. They're always constant. You'll be notified. Your staff will probably be notified. And you'll still fail, not yourself, but it happens all the time. People even know they're coming and they fail. So you have to be very proactive that if this liquor license does get granted, that if your clientele were to violate, the law, it's coming back to you. So I think you understand that. It's a big responsibility. One I would never wish on myself. I couldn't do your business. I wouldn't want nothing to do with it. Egg and breakfast place would be something for me. So I think that's a huge investment that you're taking seriously, and you really want this to succeed. Moving forward with that, I think, the board has its opinion, and it's been a stretch on public safety. So I reached out to Brian, and everybody kind of reached out to each other after last week's meeting, said, there seems to be concerns on the board. My acting town manager was not here, he was unavailable, so I had to utilize my CFO, Randy Scollins, to join us with Ed O'Leary, Brian, and Dan Murphy. We've met twice with me and Lorraine, right?
This morning.
Right. And there's been some discussion about the security at the stadium, working proactively with public safety. So now I'm reporting that to my board, because I have to eventually. Would Chief O'Leary and Brian like to discuss publicly what you've been talking about? So I think the chief needs to be sitting down, not standing up, more comfortable if we could amend him. And if, that way he can explain to the board what Brian and him have been talking about to create a safe environment at Patriots Place and to address the concerns of this board, if that does address their concerns. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After the last meeting, we did leave that it was important for Chief O'Leary to get together with me and look at some ideas that he has already had and ideas that are still to come in terms of augmenting the public safety model for Patriot Place. I think it's fair to say that we've had 3 meetings. We've walked some physical space in terms of providing the chief with an area at Patriot Place for for lack of a better word, a supervisory level person to oversee what's happening at Patriot Place on a given Friday or Saturday night. Again, to reiterate, on any given Friday or Saturday night, there's anywhere from 8 to 12 officers at Patriot Place, and speaking for myself, looking at it from the operation, it's not a very well managed operation in terms of the details that are in certain locations. They do have communication between each other. There's not a great level of communication with Patriot Place security right now. And I think the first step that we've talked about is determining a role for a test of a supervisory level person from the chief's department to at least start to coordinate and look at that existing model as a resource for all of the officers that are there. There are officers that are there, they're not even from Foxborough on a regular basis, just the way the details work out. So I have a lot of faith in what we're going to be working on in the near future, but initially, we're going to be looking at a supervisory level person coming in. And Chief, you can talk a little bit about the detail of that and what we're thinking about for the future.
Thank you, Brian. Over the last several days since the prior hearing, myself and Brian, Dan Murphy, the original meeting with both our finance director and Chairman Sullivan, we're trying to come up with a process that we could build an effective policing strategy for Patriot Place. There is communication between all the different officers that are working there, and again, it's a variable number. But I think a key component is to have a command level officer that would be able to oversee the operation of the different facilities and have a better span of control and be directly there. Currently, it falls upon whoever the evening shift commander would be, and along with running 3 or 4 cruisers to cover the town, he would also have the dispatch staff at the station, plus a number of details, whether it's a high school football game or the 8 to 12 officers that might be at Patriot Place. We had a follow-up meeting this morning, and I've prepared a draft of an initial concept that we'll be moving forward with to try and better prepare ourselves. We go to a lot of in-depth of testing different strategies, because not every strategy or concept works. But I wanted to implement this well in advance of any new openings to see if it will have the adjustment that will enhance the police capability at not the cost necessarily to the taxpayer, but as part of a detail on Patriot Place. And I'm confident that as we examine other models, that the model that we will pick would be the best one for the area that we're going to be working in. Because Patriot Place appears to be static right now, but I'm sure within the next few years, there'll be additional growth issues that we'll have to cope with.
Okay. So together, what I got out of the meeting, and Lorraine, you were at the second meeting. I apologize. Lorraine was only at the first meeting because she was on the second meeting because she was unavailable to make the first meeting because she was working. And I was suddenly available because I couldn't work that day. And when I was notified that Chief O'Leary and Brian were meeting, I wanted to have a selectman present, and I think, I always utilize the vice chair in her position, not only to help me, but to help herself becoming the chairman in the future, because it's most likely what's going to happen. And it's a tougher job than people think. So we had the first meeting, then the second meeting, and Lorraine was present. I saw a lot of good dialogue, and I saw what we need to be proactive for the future, not just later, but now, coming into the holiday season, with I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, it's been a long day, and this meeting seems like it's already 6 hours long. Okay, the stadium is willing to provide funding for a supervising sergeant
Yes.
on,
That is not correct.
okay, I'm looking to be correct
The
here.
specific command officer will be one of the lieutenants,
All right, a command officer.
command officer.
So that will have no ties to the rest of the town unless it's a
Correct.
serious situation. And that command officer will control the details, working together with all the details in case they need to be more visible or brought to another location?
Well, it depends on the incidents as they break within the property, but to have command and control, but also to develop a better relationship with the merchants that exist, as well as with the security services that are on the grounds.
And utilize the video surveillance equipment?
Yes, they'll have access to our Patriot Place Command Center, which has got very high-tech video surveillance capabilities.
And there's other things, if you want to make it, instead of me asking, why don't you just,
Yeah,
you know.
there'll be office space available, and the office space that is designated is right off of our loading dock, so should any sort of processing need to happen, discussion with individuals, either a victim or otherwise, can all happen in one of the locations that could be designated for this. There's multiple locations that we have shown the chief to facilitate this.
And with the average of 8 to 13, is that the number I heard, police details on a regular weekend, Friday, Saturday?
Right, that's where the model is today, which, may or may not change in the future, as a new model is being analyzed, but that's where things are today.
Lorraine, is that what you got out of the meeting? Okay. So, basically, if the Hibachi Steakhouse Saga, that's, how many people does that sit?
About
295.
200, a little over
So
200.
does that fall shy of our bylaws for a
Yes.
police detail? By,
By like 15, I think.
okay. And your establishment, if it became one, would be entitled to have 2 because of the population. It's, I don't know if you know about our
Yep,
bylaws.
we're- yeah.
Whatever Ed determines.
Yeah,
Ed-
or by the determination of the chief of police. Okay. Anything else that you want to mention?
I just want to be clear that the period of time that we're going to be reviewing this new concept with the command feature will be from Friday, November 22nd through January 5th, 2014, as indicated in the chief's memo to the board, in which Patriot Place and the craft organization supports.
Okay. And Edward, you got a positive feeling about this moving forward?
I think it's essential for our community to take some steps to improve the quality of policing on the property for the safety of the people that come into Foxborough and want to enjoy Patriot Place.
Can I just interrupt?
Yes.
There was no memo in the packet.
It just was received before the meeting. I could give a copy to Lorraine. She's showed it to John.
I
don't think
I got the email. Did you get an email?
No, I just emailed, as our discussion this morning was.
So is there a
being emailed
memo
to
at
you.
this table?
Yeah, there is floating
Do you want
around.
to pass it down?
I don't have it.
Chairman, I have
It's old.
extra
It's old.
copies if that would be helpful.
This is all last week. So basically. Okay, hang on. So Jim, do you want to digest that while Ginny asks a question?
Pass that.
Is that what you want to? Okay, Ginny.
Chief O'Leary, you said there would be a command officer to oversee the details. Is that a new position for the Foxborough Police Department?
No,
So
it's
you would be.
detail.
Detail.
No, but you're talking about a command officer to oversee, so I'm thinking, because right now you said the shift sergeants
Correct.
back at the public safety building are in charge of the details, more or less.
Right.
So you're saying that now there will be a command officer up at Patriot Place who will be in charge of
That's
overseeing
correct.
the details? Okay, so my question is, that command off that Patriot Place is gonna be providing, is Patriot Place gonna be providing a whole new position in the
No,
Foxborough
that's
Police
one of
Department?
the officers that has other duties during the normal daytime hours, and it will be paid on a detailed basis to have the person up there supervising that team of officers.
So all it is the same, it's a existing Foxborough police
Right, it's an
officer.
existing
It's
officer.
a paid detail for a
For a police commander to manage the resources on site.
So all Patriot Place is paying for is a detail.
Correct.
So we're not benefiting by like an additional person to the police department provided by Patriot Place. It's not a new position.
No,
it's
it's
a
not.
detail.
Correct.
No, but it alleviates the strain, as you said earlier, on the sergeant on duty. That he doesn't have to worry about And this is why I think it's important. And I've heard it stated by many members of the board. Well, you know, if that sergeant has to be in control of police details and situations at the stadium, he can't be focused on the town.
No,
So I'm just want to make sure that's clear.
Right, no,
Because, see, I've had the meeting twice. This is your first time hearing it, so
Yeah,
it's,
it's
I
my
just want
first
to make
time
sure
hearing
it's
it.
clear, yeah. So,
Mark, question? If I can?
yeah,
Chief, I just asked Lorraine what the occupancy of Toby Keith's was, and that's 1335 maximum occupancy. Let's say this has a maximum occupancy of 650, it's roughly 2,000 people. Do you have any issues with what I call a hyper-concentration of large establishments and really within a few hundred feet of each other? Is there any strain on policing with such a high concentration?
If we didn't have any resources on the grounds, it certainly would be, where we're having detail officers assigned to the different locations and managed. It's not gonna be significantly different because we're incrementally adding places as opposed to having everything open during the same time frame. Yes, alcohol density is something that you have to be concerned with, and you have to take steps to try and mitigate the impact it has. If we're in a residential area, it would certainly have more of an impact on the immediate neighborhoods. And that, you know, has come out over several studies over the past decades. However, we're in a suburban area surrounded by parking lots where residential areas are not severely impacted as they are in a more urban area. But it is something that, you know, we have to monitor, and that's why we have officers assigned up there.
Sean, you good, Lorraine?
So Ed, with the adjustments that you're about to trial, when there is an incident, will there still be a car responding to Patriot Place when there's an incident?
No, because we've, as part of this program, we're also expanding the hours that the patrol wagon will be on the grounds, both to interact with the public, being dismounted during the early part of the evening, as well as having that capability during the night itself, if people are taken into custody so they can be transported to the station.
And who will process them? Will it be the wagon person who processes them down at the station, or how does that work? Does someone have to come off the road to process them?
That could happen whenever an arrest is made.
Right.
In any of the neighborhoods, we usually have an officer that makes the arrest as well as the shift sergeant. In this case, the arresting officer doesn't go down from the stadium. We have them fill out a preliminary report, whether they're in for protective custody or a criminal offense, and that report is just attached to the booking forms that are filled out at the station.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
So this, what you're proposing, you're saying it's starting November 22nd, Chief, and going to January 5th?
Right.
And you're gonna run it for that while, and then adjust it, continue it?
We'll adjust based on the information, and as part of the background, not only assessing the operation, but also reaching out to some other communities that have tried some innovative practices and having an assessment done of those as to their practicality of being on Patriot Place and for our community.
What's your thoughts on Thursday night over the years? I mean, Thursdays have seemed to turn into Fridays. A lot of times, people, you see them going out they have entertainment on Thursday nights just as much as they do on Friday nights.
We haven't really had that on a regular basis. Certainly when Showcase Live was using a different business format, they were having acts on different nights of the week. In fact, this summer, Tuesday nights became more of a crowd attractor because one of the restaurants offered dollar burgers.
Yeah.
And that was a big draw amongst young men in their 20s that don't know how to cook at home and to try and go to that location. And my staff has brought it to my attention So that particular facility has to, let's say, be better prepared for having the larger crowds on a Tuesday.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
This-
Oh, hold on. Is it, the
but this-
public meeting's closed, Linda, unless the board wants to open.
It seems like you're bringing up another whole subject here that has nothing to do with that, so I was wondering if I could comment on that.
Does anybody want to open up the public? Anybody want to entertain that?
Sure, out of respect for Linda, and I think she's sat here the whole time. so-
Yeah.
which I don't think she was
Anybody
here
want,
last time.
that's a motion for Jimmy, I take it, to
Yeah,
open, we
I'll
open the
make a
public
motion to
hearing?
open the public hearing.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Linda, just come on up, please. Just for clarification, Linda, the reason I'm talking about this in front of, about Splitsville, because
I want to ask you a question on this part.
yeah,
So Linda Walsh, 8 Pond Ave,
well-known,
what?
well-known.
So, Brian, it sounds like this is something that you and the chief and Mark and Dan have gotten together and established that it's a need currently.
Yes, it's a need to look at the model.
And Chief, you're saying that we'd like to try this, start this month?
Correct, at the end of the month.
So this, this is gonna happen. You guys have worked this out,
Trying to be proactive.
being proactive without even, involving Splitsville or Howell at the Moon. And is your last name Howell?
No, it's holy.
Oh,
I don't howl at
It kinda-
movies.
It kind of stipulates your, I don't know what Walsh would be, but whatever. So I just want to commend you folks for being proactive and looking at things. And I think it's great when, we work together like that to accomplish one goal. And I think public safety has to be the first. It always is, and it's, no big like, oh, really, they're concerned about public safety. The chief did a great job by going down and inspecting everything down in Florida, as well as going into Paul's establishment and speaking to the authorities there. So I just want to commend you guys for coming in and jumping on that before the need, actually. Well, there's obviously a need, but without Splitsville or Howl at the Moon there. So good job, Chief, Brian, Mark, and Dan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing again?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so anyways, trying to get my thought back here. The board seems to be concerned with the public safety issue, which it should be. I think it's being proactive. I think this information is important because I want to reveal it to the board whenever I have meetings, as Jim has done in the past when he's had meetings with our entities and everybody else. So I think it has a lot to do with this public hearing because the concerns should be a little bit easier to deal with. To me, I like the concept. I like the idea. I think it'll work. But I'm also going to forewarn you. I'm probably the toughest person, and I'm not trying to toot my horn here when it comes to violations of liquor licenses since I've been on this board 7 years. And if anyone wants to disagree, fine, but I don't take it lightly at all. It sounds like you could have some issues moving forward with some of your clientele. I hope you don't let it get out of hand and you control it right away if this is granted. And I mean that sincerely. I want to build a relationship with you gentlemen as a representative of the town of Foxborough. I don't want to bring a disease to my town. Okay? And that, if anybody else wants to speak,
I just had a
Jim?
question. I thought last week there was a mention of monitoring mitigation.
it's something that I think council is advised. I don't think that's appropriate for this discussion. Am I wrong, Mr. DeLuca, or
Well,
right?
mitigation is a broad term. Potentially what was talked about here by way of modifications to police procedures is mitigation. It could have included some dollar changes if necessary. There might have been some cost to building. As long as it's tied to a purpose, it's perfectly appropriate. You know, a cash payment with no particular purpose or structure, you know, would not be appropriate. But in this instance, what I've heard is the working of procedures, which may or may not involve monetary changes. I don't know. If they do, that's perfectly appropriate mitigation.
Because what was referenced was the, I forget what the amount was, but it was for, was it 20 years or something, and we have 8 more years to go or something like that. And I thought we had discussed, or it was brought up, to maybe extending that or doing something, revisiting that. And that's not what apparently was talked about.
No, we had that discussion with, in one of our meetings, but I'm not hearing a response to that, so I'm assuming that that's not something.
That was another discussion
That
that
is
you and Lorraine had at another meeting.
Right, that was
That I
different.
wasn't privy to. So until she reports to the board.
But that's still on the table, right?
Well, there's no response to that, so I'm assuming it's not. So,
Well,
So,
it could be a response from us saying that we would like that to be on the table.
Is there a proposal or a question relative to this?
Let
Well,
me
I'll
back
let-
up a
I'll
little
let-
bit, just, so, you're right, I always get nervous when we're saying, are we asking for money? Obviously, we can't, because we can't do that for liquor licenses. What I referenced at the last meeting was the committee that you were on back in 2007 and 2008, quantified and qualified the potential issues in mitigation necessary for the 12 liquor licenses. So that committee looked at police staffing, fire staffing, snowplow trucks, equipment, and you add all that up, and it was like 1.4 million, so you divide that by the 12 liquor licenses. So that was the 119,000 that you could put on a value of a liquor license. And that's the only discussion I've had, was at this table. So that, I think, is, and that's what this report is, back from the town meeting in 2007 that you guys were part of. So what I'm hearing is some of the things that were discussed back then, such as police staffing, was quantified, and rather than paying for the police, you put it into a fund, and I'm assuming it went to the general fund and went back to pay for the officers and the extra staffing.
so there was, part of that agreement was $140,000 for 10 years, and so that's due to sunset, I believe, in 2018, and that's what was discussed in a meeting with Dan Murphy.
Yep.
And Randy Scollins and myself, and I had Ginny attend, because this was a separate meeting.
I just sat there.
And,
Yeah, it was broken down over 12 years, and that ends in 2018
right,
for the 12 liquor
right.
licenses.
So, I suggested that the impact on public safety does not go away after 12 years, and so that it would make sense for that payment to continue in perpetuity. So that was what was suggested, but, we're not getting a response on that.
Again, is there a proposal about that?
I'm going to point to Mr. DeLuca now. Is that appropriate?
It's a little late.
It's
Huh?
a little, yeah.
Well, no, it's not.
There was a proposal made last
I'm asking
Thursday.
Mr.
Well,
DeLuca, it's appropriate.
You had substantive discussions. If there's an opportunity for additional discussions, you can conduct those. They don't necessarily have to continue here in your deliberations. There may be an opportunity to continue the deliberations to a different day if you think there's some reason to do that. I don't know if there's a mutual interest in doing that, however.
Do you want to caucus with your people?
Well, we wanted to take a 5-minute, regardless of the subject matter, about some other things. So why don't we do that right now? And we'll come back to you. If there is something to discuss on this matter, we'll be prepared to discuss it. But
So you
We'll take
want-
5 minutes
take
right
five.
now.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody, for your patience tonight. A lot of good deliberation tonight, a lot of good questions. Thank you, Frank. Okay, Brian brought up a question.
Well, I brought up the question, I don't know if there's a proposal or a discussion that it was occurred that, may need to be brought up publicly between select men, women that were together on that subject of the past mitigation. So I'm not sure what we're asking or talking about. So if there was a meeting or discussion, I'd like to hear the details of that.
Okay, so last Thursday, I met with, because I couldn't attend the meeting in the morning, I met separately with Dan Murphy. Mark was to attend, but last minute had to cancel, so I asked Ginny to be present. And
Just so I can
met with,
back you up on
Yeah.
that. That meeting was already scheduled for the afternoon.
right,
And then Chief O'Leary wanted to meet with me on a separate issue. Just want to make sure that's
Yep.
clear.
And I just want to make clear, I was there, I was present. I was present. Okay.
Right.
This-
So, what I did was I asked, I asked about, talking about mitigation related to the fact that the town, the volume of calls in the town has increased, the police force is stretched thin, and, considering the impact that another large venue will have in terms of, the town will still be faced with processing any incidents that happen. I wanted to have Randy present to explain where we are with basically the finances and dealing with our police situation. So actually, Randy, would you mind? So we had this conversation with Dan, and basically, this is what the proposal was, that, this is the proposal that Dan was to take back for discussion. And this morning, or yesterday morning, when, was it this morning?
Yes, we met this morning.
But- So this
On-
morning, when we met, Dan said that there was going to be a meeting this afternoon about what we had discussed last Thursday, and that he would call Bob, and Bob would let me know what happened, and then coming in, I was told that that was off the table. So there was some discussion, but I'll let Randy explain in more detail,
Sure. So,
because he provided the information.
the proposal that was brought forward in that meeting last Thursday had to do not with what was discussed here with the trial plan that the chief and Brian have been discussing, that's specific to Patriot Place, which, sounds like a great opportunity to create some efficiencies. And, on the face of it, it looks like it actually might, reduce some costs in terms of details, which is great. But it addresses Patriot Place specifically. So what the concerns with a large facility, such as Splitsville and Howell at the Moon, is the impact on the rest of the community, all that additional traffic and sort of the multiplier effects across the community. And the police force is stretched thin to manage increased impacts. All of the mitigation money that's been received has been more than fully expended. Given that we've added 7 public safety staff, very early on, and so it's fully exhausted, and then some, and the town has fully invested beyond that. So we're looking at a situation here where we'd like to have the confidence to be able to add another permanent police officer to the department, but with the sunsetting of the current mitigation, $140,000, it's going to that's going to be a revenue reduction, and to give us the confidence to be able to add that staff, consider that staff position for the police department. The proposal was to continue that, given the direct impact that is to be expected from this facility.
Thank you. So, we had this discussion with Dan, and then, Mark explained to me that that was not on the table, so.
Well, let me say that the task that, what the chief talked about was a very strong plan in terms of looking at the public safety issue and reviewing it as things stand right now. And we felt very good, including in that meeting today, where we said not only is this a short-term ability to look at the situation and analyze it, and I said, I need a professional like Chief O'Leary to analyze it for a longer term, which is going to happen at the conclusion of this point. And I think that's where we stand right now. I think, and I'll be perfectly blunt, that I don't see how talking about the long-term future and further mitigation is appropriate at this point, given what we're dealing with here is a very qualified applicant. We left the last meeting, we've come up with a plan to address public safety. So I guess I'm very confused how, that subject, based on the meeting we had this morning, the letter that was provided to the board by the chief, where things stand, I'm not sure where the appropriateness is of any discussion beyond that at this point in time.
There's the response. All right, moving forward. Anything else to add? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I move that we approve the movement of the current liquor license from the Stadium Fieldhouse to the applicant of Splitsville.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all's in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that's enough for tonight. That's all we're gonna do on the agenda. Good night, everybody. Motion to adjourn. Sorry.
Second.
the city I live in, the city of angel. Lonely as I am, together we cry. Travel to she's she's my companion. I'll walk through her fields, she knows who I am. She sees my good deeds, she says remember. But I'll never wonder, that is a lie. And I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love, take me all the way. And I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love, take me all the way. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to believe that there's nobody out there. It's hard to believe that I'm all alone. At least I have learned that she loves me. Lonely as I am, together we cry. And I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love, take me all the way. And I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love, take me all the way. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, yeah, yeah. Love me, I said, yeah, yeah. Under the bridge downtown is where I drew some blood. Under the bridge downtown, I could not get enough. Under the bridge downtown, forgot about my love. Under the bridge downtown, I gave my life away. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, 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 yeah, yeah. Love me, I said, yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, yeah, yeah. Good night, my angel, time to close your eyes and save these questions for another day. I think I know what you've been asking me. I think you know what I've been trying to say. I promised I would never leave you, and you should always know, wherever you may go, no matter where you are, I never will be far away. Good night, my angel, now it's time to sleep. And still so many things I want to say. Remember all the songs you sang for me when we went sailing on an emerald inside this ancient heart, you'll always be a part of me. Good night, my angel, now it's time to dream, and dream how wonderful your life will be. Someday your child may cry, and if you sing this lullaby, then in your heart there will always be a part of me. Someday we'll all be gone, but lullabies go on and on. They never die, that's how you and I will be. That's how you and I will be.
Rolling down the road, don't know where guitar back to the drum. Somewhere run by Marco's on 12, Papa started humming the phone. Got a Jones in my bones before we know they were singing through the melody. Stopped the car, pulled out the guitar, covered in blue body, said, take me home. Said, take me home. Could feel the sun about to rise when I realized we had nothing to fear. It's just me, my daddy, and the kid was going. Confusion that nobody could hear. And then the sun lit up and it split the night. Split over how to believe. 10,000 cars by the side of the road, as far as the eye could see. Should take me home. Should take me home. I said take me home. Said take me home. This greyhound is Delta bound, mama. Baby boy done finally found. I said this greyhound is Delta bound, mama. Baby boy done finally found his way home. I said take me home. 2, 3, here we go. Hot team should have felt the groove like I was swimming in a sea of soul. The sun was rising and the day was hot. It was all about to lose control. My daddy turned his face up towards the sky, and I knew that there was nothing to lose. I felt the crowd breathe in and I closed my eyes, and we disappeared into the groove. I from the water, children. Straight from the water, straight from the water, children. Straight from the water. You don't know nothing about this man.
Every day I have the blues. Every day. Every day I have the blues. Well, you see me worry, baby, because it's you I hate to lose. Nobody loves me. Nobody seems to care. Nobody loves me. Nobody seems to care. Speaking of bad luck and trouble, well, you know I've had my share. I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move it down the line. Yes, I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move it down the line. Well, there ain't nobody worrying and there ain't nobody crying. Seems to me every day I have the blues. Every day I have the blues. You see me worry, baby, 'cause it's you I hate to lose. Nobody loves me. Nobody seems to care. Nobody loves me. Nobody seems to care. Speaking of bad luck and trouble, well, you know I've had my share. I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move it down the line. I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move down the line. Well, there ain't nobody working, baby, and there ain't nobody crying. Every day I have
the city I live in, the city of angel. Lonely as I am, together we cry. Drive on the streets, she's my companion. I walk through her grounds, she knows who I am. She seen my good deeds, she says to but I'll never want her, that is a lie. I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to believe that there's nobody out there. It's hard to believe that I'm on the heart. Yes, I have learned to say that she loves me. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. I'll never wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, yeah, yeah. Love me, I said, yeah, yeah. Oh, under the bridge downtown is where I drew some blood. Under the bridge downtown, I could not get enough. Under the bridge downtown, forgot about my love. Under the bridge downtown, I gave my life away. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, 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 yeah, yeah. Love me, I said, yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, yeah, Good night, my angel, time to close your eyes and save these questions for another day. I think I know what you've been asking me. I think you know what I've been trying to say. I promised I would never leave you, and you should always know, wherever you may go, no matter where you are, I never will be far away. Good night, my angel, now it's time to sleep, and still so many things I want to say. Remember all the songs you sang for me when we went sailing on an emerald bay. And like a boat out on the ocean, I'm rocking you to sleep. The water's dark and deep inside this ancient heart. You'll always be a part of me. Good night, my angel, now it's
Someday we'll all be gone, but lullabies go on and on. They never die, that's how you and I will be. That's how you and I will be.
Rolling down the road, don't know where I get out back to the train. Somewhere around my mark of 112, Papa started humming the phone. Got a Jones in my bones before I know it. Was singing through the melody. Stopped the car, pulled out the guitar, covered in blue body. Said, take me home. Said, take me home. Could feel the sun about to rise when I realized we had nothing to fear. It's just me and my daddy and the kids go, cause you got nobody to hear. And then the sun lit up and I spent the night spinning over behind Jubilee. 10,000 cars by the side of the road, as far as the eye could see. Should take me home. Should take me home. Said take me home. Said take me home. This Greyhound is Delta bound, more. Baby boy done finally found. Said this Greyhound is Delta bound, more. Baby boy done finally found his way home. Said take me home. 2, 3, here we go. I think we should have felt the groove like I was swimming in a sea of soul. The sun was rising and the day was hot. It was all about to lose control. My daddy turned his face towards the sky, and I knew that there was nothing to lose. I felt the crowd breathe in and I closed my eyes, and we disappeared into the groove. I said, take me home. I said, take me home. Take me from the water, children, straight